Hi, in this video, we'll be focusing mainly on how to convert a decimal to a percent and a percent to a decimal. We'll also be touching on how to convert these things to fractions as well. All right, so let's get started with an example. Convert 13.5% to a decimal. All right, so we're going to convert 13.5% to a decimal. And the key thing that we have to remember to unlock this is the fact that percent actually means per 100 or out of 100. So converting it to a fraction is kind of already built in. So we have 13.5 over 100. But here's the thing. Over 100 is the same thing as saying divided by 100. So it's really 13.5 divided by 100. So you may recall that when you are dividing, you do not, well, by any power of 10, you don't have to use a calculator. It's actually pretty easy if you remember that when you divide by any power of 10, you're going to just move the decimal place by the number of zeros there are. So in this case, there are 2 zeros. And in any case, with 100, there are always 2 zeros. So you're always going to move that decimal point 2 places when you're dividing, 2 places to the left. So we're going to go ahead and take that decimal point and move it not 1, but 2 places to the left. And it will create a new decimal point. And so when we convert 13.5% to 100, we get 0.135. And again, that decimal point is right here because we moved it from here 2 places to right here. So all you have to remember then, so we can write a rule down just to make sure we've got it. All you have to remember then is when converting from percent to decimal, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left. All right, so let's try an example where we're going to have to convert from a decimal to a percent. Okay, so you may recall, we just did it 1 second ago. When we converted a percent to a decimal, we had to divide by 100. So going the other way, now we have to multiply by 100 in order to change from a decimal to a percent. So let's write that down so we don't forget it. So from a decimal to percent, we move the decimal point because we're going to be multiplying by 100. We move the decimal point 2 places to the right. All right. So with that in mind, this is not so bad. All we have to do is move this point 2 places to the right, and the new decimal point would go right there. So that is actually 7.0, but you obviously don't have to write 0.0. And we've changed it to a percent, and that is actually critical that we write that that's now a percent. So 0.07 was converted to 7%. Let's try another one. We're going to try one that looks a little bit different, and that might take us to over 100%, which is okay. All right. So I want us to now convert 1.5, not 1.5%, but just 1.5 to a percent. Same rule applies. All we have to do is take the decimal point and move it 2 places to the right. Notice there is no number right here. That's okay. The placeholder value is just going to be 0. And that's anytime you don't have a digit to fill in that spot, you are going to want to put a 0 there. All right, so the new decimal point will be right here. So we've moved it 2 places to the right. And now as a percent, this is going to be 150.0, but we don't have to put the 0.0, 150%. All right, and so that's how you convert a decimal into a percent. So I did promise you that I would briefly talk about how to turn fractions into percents. In order to turn a fraction into percent, you should recall that you already know how to turn a fraction into a decimal. If you don't, definitely you want to go to my video on changing fractions into decimals. So to change a fraction into a percent, let me write this down so it's 6. To change a fraction into a percent, all I wanted to mention in this video is that there is a step in between. We need to first change it to a decimal. All right, so once you change it to a decimal, then you can go ahead and change it to a percent. I'll do it in the next video just to make sure you've got it down.